Hello everyone, and welcome to Music and Mixing. Those of you who are in the chat, let us know, make sure you can hear us, all that kind of stuff. As you can tell, I'm not in my studio tonight. I'm not even in my own state. I'm in another state.
Wild, wonderful West Virginia,
Wild,
man.
wonderful West Virginia. Thank you.
Welcome.
Tonight we're covering a topic that I wanted to bring my good friend in, DJ Cadillac. You guys had seen him on some of the other stuff that we did before. We're going to be talking about digital vinyl systems tonight, and how as a mixed DJ you can start from the beginning with them. And we're going to break it down to the absolute most basic stuff we can tonight. And for those of you who want to get started in it, we're going to kind of give you a basis, and for those of you who are just kind of curious, we're going to teach you about that too. But we're going to cover just about everything that we can tonight on this in our short time. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in. We're trying to watch the chat to make sure everything's good to go on that. I'm not sure who we have in the chat room right now. I really don't see anybody in the chat room, but if you're there, holla.
Holla, holla.
But we're gonna cover some basic stuff here, and one of the things that we're gonna work with is the records and stuff, and we're gonna talk about what their purpose is and why you would use them, and what's the purpose of using them if you want to DJ down the road with them, and all the little basics. Is hopefully we can get you kind of hooked up there. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop us in the chat there. I'm trying to get the chat to pop up so we can see that on the live feed. But first thing we're talking about is the records. For those of you who don't know, there are these things that are called control vinyl. They're also called time code vinyl. They're also called digital vinyl system. And what it is that on here that most of you who are old enough to know what an actual record is, you kind of know the gist of that there are grooves in there, and when the needle sets down in the groove, there are right and a left groove for stereo, right and left, and as it goes across there, as it spins, it causes a vibration that gets picked up in the needle, goes through, out to your speaker, okay? So what is on here is not songs. It's a tone that then analog tone that gets converted into a digital signal. And I even brought a little video tonight, if I can find it here, to show you what it actually looks like, or sounds like, should I say, that this is what, let me find the right, there we go. And this is a recording that somebody put on YouTube of what this sounds like if you were to take one of these records and put them on a regular record player and play them through a regular speaker. So this is what it would sound like. You just have that steady tone, that beep. And what that does is as that tone is playing, all it's going to do is, if you turn the record forward or backwards, it's going to then speed up the record or slow down the record, just like any other song. You do your pitch fader, the tone then goes up or down. And what that does is it translates that tone higher, lower, in, like tone-wise, you would hear piano keys going up or down. That tone higher or lower then translates into a digital signal that then controls your program. So the MP3 will speed up, slow down, stop, start, depending on the sound that's coming out of here into there. So that's basically the first gist on the records. You'll see different DJs use different color records. They're not different songs, they're not different anything. It's just to personal preferences of how it looks. Different DJs use all kinds of different stuff. I know guys that collect just control vinyl. So literally every single record they have has the exact same sounds on it, but they're just different colors, different things like that.
Some people have them personalized. They get their names or logos on them.
I've seen ones where they'll get literally down to their exact logo on there with however they want it to design with a marker, all that kind of stuff, and all of that is in there. I'm double checking the chat, make sure we're getting good feeds here, everybody. Holla. We're watching on a very tiny screen tonight, so funniest thing I heard was someone thought that the software actually downloaded the song. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's again, thank you, Paul, for throwing out there that there's a lot of different people who don't really know a lot about this, and that's kind of why we want to break it down. So we have the record, so we know what is on the record. And the next thing that comes up from that is the needle, okay? First thing I want to talk to people about is the cost. There are so many different types of needles out there, it's not even funny. How much is setting right there? That little thing right there, how much is setting there?
I think those were $180 or $200 each.
$180 or $200 per side.
Per side.
Okay,
yeah, per side.
And that's up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're talking to someone who's wanting to start in this. That's a little high, and we are going to cover later lower end or cheaper options. But these are the high quality. These are
Ortofons.
Okay,
Yeah.
are they the newer or older?
The older Concord series.
Older Concords. They have a new
Yeah.
series. I actually just did a video, so if you want to go to Disc Jockey News YouTube, I did a whole video on their new line, which is very similar to this. There's some little changes, some neat little things, but they have all kinds of different needles, and what that needle is doing is it's picking up that tone that we talked about, kicking it out through and into the turntable. Now, what turntable do we have right here?
The Technics 1200 MK2.
The MK2.
Yeah, MK2.
For those of you who don't know, this is kind of a classic known turntable. And why do people still gravitate towards this thing? Because most of them are 20 to 30 years old. Why do they gravitate towards this?
I think that's the main reason. They're built like tanks. They have great torque on the motor. The tracking is excellent. And the anti-skipping. I mean, that's the main reasons.
Tell us the anti-skipping and the tracking. Tell me a little bit about what that is there.
Well, when you're playing with back in the day, between you and I would say we have a combined age of a century. You're about 60, I'm about 40.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
But anyhow, if we go back to our yesteryears, we started off with records, and the record obviously had a groove, and we sat our needle inside that groove. And as time went on, the invention of the scratch came along. Once the invention of the scratch came along, people were rubbing their hands back and forth on the record.
Because before that, don't touch the record. That's the worst thing you could do.
Yeah, you don't touch it.
Touch the
right,
record.
Don't scratch the record, But people started doing that, and as you would do that faster, the needle would come out of the groove, and then you would lose the sound that you were trying to manipulate.
That would what people would know as a skip, when it would come out of the groove into something else.
Correct.
Okay.
Skip. Yep.
Okay.
And so, as time went on, there was different companies that developed different type of stylus, different type of needles, and they would track better. And
stay in the groove.
Stay in the groove.
Okay.
But again, when you're dealing with a real record, it's still not like this.
Okay.
With this digital vinyl systems of today, you still had to watch how hard you were pressing, even with the best technology that was out at the time.
Right.
Even with these needles, when I bought them 10 years ago, or no, wait, hold on, it's longer than that. These are probably a lot older than that. But either way, they would still skip if I would go too fast or too hard, or if someone shook your table, it definitely would make it.
Or if you were set up in a DJ booth where the great engineer who put the whole sound system together put the subs below you.
Yeah, right.
Stuff like that was always,
the bass would hit, they would do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone in there talked about drifting and different things like that. That's the same sort of thing.
That's hilarious. That's the word I was trying to look for earlier.
Oh, okay. We were talking about this earlier, and we kept the word, and I kept dropping every word in the English language. No, that's not it. So it's drifting across there, and those are things. Those of you maybe seen pictures or talked to an older DJ back in the day. You would put coins on the head of the needle to keep it in there on days, and I heard DJs talking about DJing outside in the wind, and a strong windy day will make that needle move.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or if they, I've had it back in the day when I was placed outside and didn't have no cover, and before you knew it, my records were warping. They're sensitive to sun.
Didn't even think about that. Yeah. So that's something within the record itself. There. I'm going to go back to our list here. I'm going to try to keep an eye out on the chat room. So we went from all of that. So the sound is literally, that tone you heard is literally coming out of, so if we were to plug this turntable into a speaker, like you would if you were listening to music in your house, you would hear that tone. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that tone is coming out of the RCA cord out into this mixer. Now here's where it gets kind of weird, because this mixer, being a really high-end mixer, has a sound card, or two sound cards actually, right?
Honestly, I don't even know.
I don't remember now if it has one or two, so you asked me the wrong one there. I'm going to have to lean over a little bit. Either way, it has a sound card. Or what started at the beginning, you had what was called an SL box. And it was a sound card designed to take in the RCAs from the record player, and that's where it transitions that analog tone into a digital signal that then goes up through a USB cord into the computer. Okay, so that little magical box, back in the day, SL was actually for Scratch Live, which is a program, it's a program by Serato that is, people still use it, but it's not supported by them anymore.
No.
But the box still is called the SL box, and you would buy them, and they make 2 or 4 channel ones now. Is it 4? Or they go any higher than 4?
I've only seen the 4 channel.
Okay, so there's the 4, and they get kind of elaborate. Denon actually has their own out there that you can buy, and it works the same way, exact same way. And there's a couple. I think Tractor has one.
Yeah, that was like the first one I had was the Audio 8 by Tractor.
Okay.
That was the first time I ever. But Tractor never supported
a little
video.
bit bigger too. Yeah. So the video. That's a whole other show we'll get into about doing video with this. But basically, with this mixer, it has it built in. So he's coming into the mixer with the RCA cords right here, and that is then internally changing that tone over to a digital signal and then sending it out via the USB cord here into his laptop. So that is the progress of it in there. And when you get to the program, it's depending on which program, because you can do this with Serato. We're working with Serato tonight. You can do it with Serato, you can do it with Virtual, you can do it with Tractor. I think, if I'm correct, you can even do it with like Algorithm and all them. I've never tried any of them, but you can do, it's the same process. It's the exact same process no matter the program. Okay, so once we get it up into the program there, that's when it starts controlling, so that when he puts an MP3 on, like if you're using a controller or just a laptop and you drop an MP3 or your MP4, whatever file onto your thing and playing, he then now, through that process of the analog to digital, is then now controlling that song's forward, backward motion the same way you would with a controller. Okay, so now that we know how it all works, it's pretty simple. Why would I want to use this? And let's start with the...
Oh, we got some comments.
Yeah, we got a few comments. I'm going to try to keep watching the comments best I can.
Any questions?
Yeah, we'll try to watch the questions we can here. But why would you use it? And I want to start with personal preference, not anything other, because we're going to get into the more professional side, but just what do you like about using turntables and records as opposed to a controller? Which you do both. Like, he has an incredibly, this is a guy who competes in DJ competition, incredible scratch DJ. We're going to show a little bit of his stuff here in a bit. But he also has a very flourishing wedding business, really high-end wedding business. So you kind of see it on all different levels of the world of DJing. What do you like about using these?
Well, I like them because this is what I started on.
Okay.
And I got used to the feel of the vinyl on, the slip mat type of feel.
Okay.
Later on, the CDJs came along, and it was close, but it was never the same as this. So this is why I kind of gravitate to this. I can do tricks, turntablism tricks that I can't do on, controllers. I like the pads on these newer style mixers and all the effects and the accessibility and just really the feel. That's the major thing for me, is the feel. It's the comfort zone, what I was used to.
Okay, that's a good word. That's a good way to describe that.
Comfort zone.
It's like, because I've always described it as driving a car. If you like driving a little car, getting a big car is going to really feel bad to you. Or if you like driving in a big truck, getting in a little car is going to feel really bad to you. So it's some of it is just simple. I like this better.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Let's talk again. Keep in mind that this whole show is about the mixed DJ and about being a mixed DJ and how to become one. And tonight we're talking about the DVS systems, because on a professional level, if you want to get into certain clubs, events, if you want to do a DJ battle like you do, you have to know this and be proficient in it, correct?
Correct.
Let's talk about, I'm going to go back to my notes here, because we just made a bunch of notes that we kind of want to hit on different things here. Let's say someone's getting started on this, and let's talk about the low end and the high end of these. So we're not going to get into necessarily the professional level of why they need to use it. We'll get into that in a little bit. But if someone wants to start on this, where can they begin? Let's start with just the turntable.
Okay.
Where could they find used ones if they wanted to? What would they be looking for? And what are maybe some alternatives that aren't used that you would say, these aren't bad, or don't touch them, or whatever?
Sure. One thing I would suggest to the newcomer to the turntable, something to look out for, there's two things. You have the belt drive and the direct drive systems. I would highly suggest against the belt drive systems versus the direct drive. The direct drive has more torque. When you put your hand on the platter, it's not going to stop. You know, the record keeps spinning whenever you're doing your pullbacks on your scratches. Even on your mixing, you know, if you're trying to mix and you're trying to change the speed, I feel like the direct drives are much less affected than the older belt drive systems. So first off, I would look for a direct drive system, whether that be from a low-end brand or a high-end brand.
Direct drive meaning that the motor is actually the thing turning it directly. And the belt means the motor's over here, the spindle's here, and there's a belt making it move in between. So it's like a chain on a motorcycle as opposed to a direct.
The belt. The way I would look at it is look at the belt on your car. You know, like over time, those belts start to slip.
Okay.
And, you know, and maybe, you know, I don't know all the mechanics of the car, but I believe, you know, maybe it'll affect the alternator charging.
Right.
But either way, it makes sounds, it slips, it doesn't do its job.
Right.
In this case of the turntable, the job is the motor needs to spin the platter efficiently at the correct speed, at the correct pitch that you're asking it to do. And you also want to spin it where it can tolerate resistance.
Right.
You know, when you're doing your scratching and mixing. So that would be the first thing. Now, once we overlook that, we're going to look into the different brands and maybe some of the different companies out there that maybe the newcomer can look into.
Okay.
Me personally, what I really feel is a strong company, a strong turntable for the money, best bang for the buck that I've ever used was the Newmark. I believe they're TTX USB and the TTX brand. I forget. They have like a little digital display on them. They have 2 start-stop buttons. They have like a plus and minus 50% on the pitch versus what you're stuck with plus an 8. You know, honestly, 8 in today's world is nothing.
When you say USB, so on those ones, we don't have to come out RCA to the mixer.
You know what?
Is that, or is there's that option at least out there? Whether those have it or not, there's that option.
There's option exists, but I don't think those ones have it. I think what they have, the USB, is more for if you want to plug it into your computer and record your record.
Got it.
Make it, you know, your old vinyl, make it digital.
Yeah, transferring over to a digital copy. Yeah.
Correct. So there's the Newmark brand. I think Stanton has a couple models that you can pick up. I forget if it's the ST150. I can't remember exact models and names. But those particular ones, I would say, are all direct drive turntables. They have good torque. I really endorse the Newmark. I used to own them for years, and I would use them. Actually, I preferred them over my Technics 1200s. I mean, I hate to admit that.
I know a lot of guys do have certain preferences, and that's what we talked, you know, a few minutes ago about the preferences. Even that far, just a simple turntable preference can be, you know, someone's I like this better or I like this better, when it's really not necessarily better. It's more better. It's same level.
This is like name brand. You know, this is your Cadillac or your Lexus, whatever you want to call your higher end brand. You know, but that doesn't mean that the GM or the Ford can't do the job. So, and they do it well. You know, a lot of times it's just the name recognition and it's what the clubs are using. This is what the industry standard is. So if you want to practice on the industry standard, Technique 1200s right now, and probably, I don't even know if that's ever going to change. They've been the industry standard
We'll talk
forever.
about the change here,
we'll
because I believe that's something it's an interesting topic. All right, so next thing over is the mixer. For those of you who don't know, I'm going to throw this out there, and I know somebody might get mad at me. With the newer mixer like the S9 and different ones, it's more or less, please forgive me if I'm wrong on this, a controller packed into a mixer, because, and I don't want to say a controller in the sense to make someone feel that it's a controller, but it has a lot of the functionality and stuff that a controller would have, like cue points, sound effects, not sound effects, but you know, audio effects, stuff that you can do if you're doing video can be built into that. So this is kind of like the engine almost of it, because you can have your wheels turning, but without that good connection to that mixer, you're not going to get much in any direction. You're going to be limited what you can do. And this one, I think this is one of the higher ends. I mean, this it's gold, and it's gold standard in my opinion, because it really covers you across the board. Again, when we talk about some of the differences, they may just be personal differences, because I've heard guys talk about, you know, these that they prefer them on another model, or they like this better than that, but it's still more or less, this is your top of the line.
Yeah.
How much would this cost somebody if they wanted to jump out and buy it?
I don't know what they're going for now, but probably still going to be somewhere between $1,500 to $1,700. I would think.
$1,700 for just this. Okay.
Yeah, brand new. I mean, you can obviously find them used, just like you can find turntables used.
So let's say they didn't want to go this high. What would you recommend something a little bit less that they could maybe begin starting with? Because you had a temp one that you tried for a while by Mixars, right? It was a news company out of Italy, I believe. And you had that for a while. That was kind of fairly inexpensive.
The Mixars Duo MK2 was the model. And yeah, not a bad mixer at all. I mean, the only gripe that I had about it was the activation of the effects. On the S9, you can toggle them really fast. You can lock them in, or you can toggle them real fast and get in and out. Or the Mixars, you had to press buttons to get to the effects engines. Yeah,
that was the thing that I was talking to somebody the other day about. That the new is it the 72 that those can be flipped to where it locks that way or is toggled that way, and you can actually flip them if you don't like it that way. And that's what some people will go, I don't like it locking this way, I prefer it to lock this way. That's one of the little preferences we can talk about there.
Yeah, that's a preference.
But the Mixar has that, and how much did that run? That was under $1,000, wasn't it?
Under $1,000. I want to say
that's brand new. Keep in mind, because you can always get stuff used too.
I want to say it's like a $700 to $800
$700 to $800.
Yeah.
All right.
And
so
believe it or not, a friend of mine called me one day. I didn't even hear of that mixer. He calls me. He's like, "Hey, Cadillac, you got to go online right now and just buy this." And I'm like, "Buy what?" He's like, "Just go on Amazon right now and buy it." Like, okay. I just went on, never even heard of the mixer, bought the mixer. Based on his review on it, and I got it for $200.
$200, okay.
Yeah, brand new.
It was an online kind of steal.
Yeah, so I just bought it, and then I think
mispriced it.
Mispriced is what happened. Yeah, because they actually sent me the wrong mixer. I called the company, said, "Hey, look, this isn't what I got on. I bought," and they said, "Oh, we'll make it right."
We'll make it right.
They sent me the right one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, it happens that way sometimes.
I got lucky. It don't happen that often.
But okay, let's say that they don't want to go with necessarily something like this, and they have a basic mixer at home that maybe an older Newmark or something that has some I don't want to call them analog audio effects, but stuff built into it. They can then hook up that SL box.
Correct.
To then continue using the mixer they have. I mean, it can technically, if I'm correct, it doesn't have to have anything, because I have a tiny little old, completely analog battle mixer that has absolutely nothing to it. There's literally nothing but a volume knobs and a couple kill switches, nothing. That can be used with an SL box too, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. Any mixer really, as long as it's sending the DVS, it's sending that signal to that mixer.
It's sending it
to the box.
It has RCAs that can receive it.
Yep.
I've actually seen guys do it with, like you've seen the Behringer USB mixers. I've seen guys send stuff that way, because technically it's a USB out and an audio in, and it's not usable. Like, you really can't scratch with it or anything like that, but it's still the same concept.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to get an SL box, those can be bought brand new or used, because now with a lot of the mixers, a lot of guys are walking away from boxes and going to the mixers.
The brand new DJs can get those really cheap.
Really cheap.
Especially the lower, like the SL1 and box. I'm assuming they all still work. I don't even know.
Certain ones, I know certain ones work with certain programs. Like, I know that you have to have a certain box to work with, like the newer Serato. Like, you can't, if you had, what was it, Scratch Live, or what was the other one that they had for a while? Itch only works with one of them, if I'm correct. I think it's the SL1 that's the only box that Itch works with. But again, you would never use any of those unless you really stick with it and you like it and you don't want it. But most people just go with regular Serato when you buy it, and it'll work on all the boxes. All right, so let's say they go out and get one of those. They can get it, most of the time if you buy them, you'll get the records with it too. And
correct. So like normally a package.
A package if you get it new, and if you don't, like I said, people have them. You can get them in every color, everything. If you just want to go out and buy someone, I actually have a friend of mine who got new ones, and he had the stock ones, and he's like, I don't even use these anymore. Here, you can have them, and he gave them to me. So, I got it that way. So you have the box, you hook it up to the mixer, and let's say like I said, they have that. They can actually start practicing right then with whatever turntable they have, whatever mixer they have. They get the SL box, and they can start practicing and learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a DJ.
I want to take a different turn here and explain, because we're going to come back to the professional level of it, and we'll get to the questions here, I promise, really quickly. We'll get to the questions. But there are two new systems out there that look a lot like this, but are totally different.
Right.
First one we're talking about is the Rain 12, and it is the size of this. The only thing's different is it doesn't have a tone arm and a needle. No. So it's reading it by the same way that your controller would read it, through an internal signal in the hardware. But essentially, once you get past that, because it's feeding a digital signal instead of an analog signal, you're still grabbing something that's this big, turning the same speed, the same everything, more or less. So that's an option if they don't want to go with the needle, and that's why we talk about needles. And someone in the chat that I did catch talk about the Shure going out of the needle business.
Yeah.
Because there is a future that's coming that I think is with the Rain 12 and then the phase system. And for those of you who don't know what the phase system is, go look up the phase system online for video. And it's more or less a little device that you stick here in the center, and it reads the rotation of the record. So it's not reading a needle, so the needle's not on there. It's reading the rotation and converting that into a digital signal that's then sent wirelessly to its own SL type box, and then convert it into a signal. So you don't have a needle anymore. So both of those are needleless options. So there'll always be this around. So you always have this to use, but there is going to be, the guys
So you
actually
got
did
to grab it
that,
and go
where
like
you
this
literally
and
don't have
scratch.
to have anything, so
Yeah.
any movement
It
makes
just,
it work.
You know, spin it on your finger and it would work.
Yeah, so
Pretty neat.
So with those options, I'm not saying that these needles are going to go away, but there's going to be a percentage, even if it's 5%, are going to move away from needles, and it gives you that option. I've actually heard 2 clubs in the city of Pittsburgh that already have orders in on the 12s and the phase, and that's going to be their go-to. So if you come in to that club, and it's a big club, you will not be using turntables and vinyl or CDJs. You're going to be a choice of throwing a phase on something or that, because he doesn't want the thing skipping and goofing.
And that's
in
what
the club.
what this does. You know, they're sensitive. That's the thing. The issue you're going to get rid of with those.
We were talking about earlier. Kick this up and see if we can do the tap thing.
Okay.
Is it on there still?
Yeah, I can pull it up.
All right, there we go. And there's adjustability in the sensitivity of it when it's all the way in the lowest sensitivity, because remember, when you're sending a signal in there, it also, as the record wears out or the needle wears out, that signal going in there is going to be a little bit different, weaker, stronger, different kind of sounding. And with the program, you have to then adjust it and calibrate it. But with the sensitivity of it, this is how sensitive that this can be set to. And if I just tap this, and you might be going to be picking it up on the speakers there, and that little tap is making that record move just enough to send a signal through. I don't know if you can hear that being picked up, but that's the sensitivity level that with that through a sub there or wind or someone jostling the table can affect your show.
It'll all affect it.
So with the Rain 12 and the phase system kind of eliminates that, but that's a whole different animal, because like you said, comfort level with some of this stuff, it's not going to feel exactly the same. So there's an adjustment. So if you've been DJing on these your whole life, no matter what you move to, it's going to feel a little different. So it's going to take some adjustment. So if you're an older DJ, we well know it's going to take some adjustment, but if you're young and you might want to go that direction, that's an option. But they cost a lot of money.
Right.
It
comes down to budget.
Yeah, because that's what we're going to talk about budget here in a bit too also. But the turntables, the 12s, cost about $800 a piece each, and then another, I think it's 16, 14 or 16.
No, it's more.
Is it more than 16?
Yeah, I mean, best prices I'm seeing them go for about $1,750, $1,700.
Okay, so 17 for there. So you're going 1,700 and another 1,600, give or take, just to get started with those. So a young DJ starting out, that's not going to be an option for a lot of people, because that's a nice car for them to go to work.
16-year-old, that's a nice car.
Especially you and I grew how far ago we got our first cars. That would have been a nice car back then.
My first car was $4,000.
Mine, I'm no joke, honest. My dad bought it off the people who we had car insurance with, and it needed, and I mean a lot of work. I bought it for $100, and it took a lot of work.
Oh wow!
It took a lot of work. He was like, yeah, and I had to pay him back for it. But I had a car after I did work to it, and for 2 or 3 years, and finally it got to the point where it broke down so much I couldn't fix it anymore. But these here, there's so many things that people are doing with these now. Like for those of you who are old and you remember that there is a ground wire on the old turntables, they're building them now that you can take them places and get them built into the cord like a ground cord.
This one is. These have that done.
So there are options now where they're taking the old and making it new, and there are lots of places that do repair these. So you can run these for a long time, because there are still people that can make them be as brand new as brand new.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm hearing parts are starting to get a little bit more difficult to get. Certain parts. I don't think everything.
Right.
So yeah, that'd be something
it's
to consider.
At least a direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now let's talk with the budgets. Again, we're going to get to the questions here very soon. A whole range of budgets we're talking there from the beginning to the end. I don't think we need to go any further into that, into the budgets. Style. So I think some of it depends on what kind of style DJ you want to be. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so. You know, depending whether you go this route versus a controller route. Is that what you're referring
Well,
to?
I mean, like if you wanted to get into the again, it's about getting into the DVS systems. If you were an EDM DJ, you would think a little bit differently on what you need out of the system as opposed to maybe a battle DJ if you want to become a battle DJ.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that you know, this type of setup would be maybe more geared towards the battle DJ, someone that's looking to do more scratching,
Right.
looking to do. I'm not saying you can't mix with these because that's what a lot of people
Right,
do.
right.
We all do, the people that use these.
Right.
But as far as making your life a little easier and still having access to the effects and having you know, access to a lot of the bells and whistles, it's still on the controllers, and they come at, I mean, it depends which one you get, but they do come at an overall lower price point, and I feel like, you know, the accuracy is just better
Right.
with the controller system. So again, depending on what you want to do, I think if you're just looking to get into mixing, playing EDM, you might want to get a controller. But if you're looking to scratch, do body tricks, the whole 9 yards, turntable's probably the way
So
to
if
go.
someone wanted to become a battle DJ, what would you say that they should probably get the Techniques? Because you're going to have those in probably most of the battles.
Yeah, it's industry
And-
standard. It's always there. That's what you
and-
got at DMC. Any other battle I've ever been in, it's always been
Red Bull 3 style, etc.
Techniques 1200s.
And mixer,
So.
I'd probably be down between the S9 and what other one do you think would be?
Well,
your
you know,
farm?
the Range 62 was a popular tank
The
for
whole
quite a
range,
while,
yeah, the whole
you know.
range, yeah.
But I think they're going to try to now push the 72,
72.
So that would be the future, the S9, the 72. I think these hot cube pads are just, you know, now that they made them bigger, more
Right.
accessible to your fingers,
Right.
and the way they access the effects now compared to the older mixers, this is going to be the new style. This is what
Okay.
you're going to be seeing.
Right.
So I think the S9, 72 are going to be the future.
So if you wanted to go that route, you'd want to get your hands
You're
on
gonna
that.
wanna go
Even
on
if
one
it's
of
just go to someone's house.
Nothing
and
wrong with the
feel-
62. It's a
Yeah.
great mixer too.
Yeah.
But it's just lacking some of the
Right.
the effects and well, it's just lacking the ease of accessing the
Okay,
effects.
okay,
You know,
okay.
So, yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the reason why I love controllers is portability. There's a couple routes you can go to make this portable. You can do an all-in-one coffin, which I've seen some guys do some big coffins. There's a guy that used to DJ at a place that he would come in for specialty nights. He was from one of the radio stations, and he would come in with a coffin with 2 turntables, a mixer, and an effects unit. So we're talking a coffin from your hand to my hand with wheels on it rolling in, you know, upright. Or you can go individual cases like you run most of the time.
Now it was all good till he had to put it on the table because it
He-
probably
he had a-
weighed.
he had a friend every night he'd come in.
150
Yeah.
pounds. You know.
Yeah,
That's a heavy
he always
setup.
had an assistant with him, you know, because he was a skinny little dude.
Yeah. yeah.
I'm not even gonna say his name. You know him.
I already know who you're talking
yeah,
about.
Anyways, but yeah, but that's portability makes it a little more difficult with this.
For sure, man. That's why I go with the single cases. You know, a single case on
Right.
each separate one. But yeah, portability is an issue, and I also think they're glitchy. I don't like the needles themselves. Sometimes you hook your needle up and it's not making a good connection. It's not sending that DVS signal.
I've seen guys lick the back of the
lick 'em.
cartridge to make it, which is I do not recommend that because then you get all kinds of corrosion and stuff that way.
I heard that really doesn't do anything. I don't know if it
Well,
really does.
it would
but-
be like any electrical connection. Water would work for a while, and then once the water goes, then you have
space.
your salt in your spit that's going to then become corrosive, or then create a separation between the two connections and
Right.
defeat the purpose.
All right.
But there are a lot of little things like that.
Yeah.
So for weddings and stuff, because you do, like I said, you do battle. We're going to show a video here in a couple seconds of him in a battle, and we're going to show you a video of him at a wedding. You DJ'd another DJ friend of ours' wedding, and he wanted you to do the intro of him and his new bride with scratching. So you recorded your voice as if, because he normally, in most weddings, you're announcing on the mic
Correct.
like an average wedding person would do. You recorded that and then scratched in because he wanted you to.
Yeah.
And it created something very unique. And I know when people watch it, they're like, oh, you're not supposed to do that at a wedding, you grab attention. But this is what the bride and groom wanted because he's a professional DJ and he wanted something that is about part of his life. And you created that. So we're going to show 2 videos here. First one is a little bit of a battle that you did
This was in Cleveland.
in Cleveland when? Like
This
recently,
was
right?
like a month and a half ago.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we're going to
not
go
long
into,
ago.
what was it, the beat juggling, was it a minute 30?
Something like that. I was
All right.
ripping up Notorious Big's warning.
All right, so we're going to share this over here and share the video and let you see a few seconds of him in the battle a few weeks ago, and then we're going to go to the other video, which is Nin's wedding.
Wedding,
Okay,
yep,
so
yep.
we'll switch over here. All right, so there was a lot of different guys there with different setups and stuff, but as you see, it's basically what we have set up here that he kind of had to run there. And you'll see he's going to slow your little beat juggling back and forth down, you slow it down. And these are tricks that you do in the battle that, some of them, you can do with a controller, but it becomes a lot more difficult.
At the end of your battle, you fade out right now and you shoot your opponent like this. Like you look at him and you shoot him.
So that's just some of the skills that he has when it comes to that. Let me grab the other video here. Where's it at? Here we go. Your wedding company is called A Cut Above.
No, it's Finest Events.
Finest
this
Events,
is an old movie.
This is
an old
That's right.
video.
I forgot that you changed the company name.
It. Yeah, that's an old video.
So we're going to share this now.
This wedding was in 2013. This is what, 5 years ago.
Okay, so this is the one at the wedding where he did the intro scratch. Okay. Boop. And I think the funniest part is when you get to when they actually come in.
Yeah.
They were jamming off what you were doing. And again, this is what they wanted, so don't think of that he's trying to get attention. They asked him, and like I said, you can see his setup there. I always joke around, it looks like a NASA control panel. That he's that level on his weddings with lighting and video and projection and everything. If you want to go to his wedding site is
it's www.finestevents.com.
And you can see some of it. Here's Chris and coming in, and he's jamming to this. And this is again a skill and ability that can be added. And again, it's just about getting you more money at different things. I'm going to jump in here and let them see a little bit of the other wedding stuff, the lighting and the different things, and it's just basic stuff. But he does rooms that are so freaking big that it's not even funny. I'm telling you, just go to his website and see some of them. The levels are crazy.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
But that kind of covers everything on there, why you would use them and stuff like that. So we have a few minutes, and I'm going to try to take as many questions as I can here. Let me switch over here. I know there's a lot of people chatting in there tonight. So let me see if I can bring this up so where you and I can both kind of see this.
Can you blow that up?
Yeah, I'm going to make it up here a little bit bigger. All right, so see if we can see any questions. If you have them, send them there. If you sent them there before and we didn't see them, obviously bring that back.
Scroll up and see what was there.
See what was there. Do you think the tone arm will eventually be faded out? Pun intended. That's funny. Again, it goes back to I really honestly believe that I think for the rest of our lives, and I'm not saying forever, ever, but I'm saying for the rest of our lives, there's going to be a lot of DJs that still use this kind of setup, absolutely. But there's also going to be a portion of them that are going to move on to something else.
And you see what he said? He said, do you think that's going to affect the price on the decks, like these type of older school? You think the value is going to go down as time goes on? You think it's going to kind of?
I think it's going to stay the same. I think it's going to. In my opinion, I think it's going to balance because it's still going to have value to the people it needs to have value to.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to pay, and the person who's selling it knows they're going to want to pay for it, so they're going to charge them for it.
Yeah.
That's what I think. That they're still going to be. I know of a friend of mine who likes certain CDJs, the older CDJs, and whenever he finds one that goes up for sale, he grabs it just simply because he likes that. It's not something new, but he pays for it because people know that there's a certain part of the audience that absolutely wants them.
And that particular friend bought 2 of mine.
Did he? Okay, all right. See, there you go.
2 of mine.
And you could have said, "Oh, this is not worth anything. It's old. No one wants it." But you found someone who it had value to, and you made a lot extra money.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Reloop decks, redigital. Yeah, there's quite a few decks out there that instead of running the RCA signal out, they run a digital signal, a USB signal, and it reads it that way, which is a little different, but it's still kind of the same. You're still getting an analog signal off the needle. It's just not being sent via the RCA tone. It's coming through. It's kind of creating it, changing it within the deck itself digitally before it sends it over USB because it's making that in there. Let me see what else we have
see
here.
that question there. It said that here they're developing a go
further up.
I'm missing
at the top of there.
I hear they're developing a toneless needle. So phases It says, amazes me that a 12-inch mixer runs more than the best controllers out there. Yeah, that is kind of weird, isn't it? You would think
because
that
it's pretty much everything in there. I mean, you have to think you're side by side, and they're packing it all into one section, and there's a lot. This really does have a lot more in it than most controllers, with the different effects that if you take a look at my Denon 7000, a lot of its effects are just MIDI map buttons to the program. Where with a lot of these, their functionality that is MIDI mapped, but they're specifically set and designed from the beginning to work every time. And I always tell people it's kind of like the Mac or the Apple versus the Android, to where the hardware is intended to work with that software and there's no middleman. But with the mix, with the controller, you might have the Denon, and then they have to make it work with 5 or 6 or 7 different programs.
Right.
So it's not dead specific. And with something like this, and I'm going to be honest with you, the hardware components in there are higher end hardware components, because you will hear the difference of throwing this on compared to maybe a mid-level controller. There is an actual quality difference. So the hardware in there is in my opinion, it's a higher quality. The faders and stuff are higher quality, all that kind of stuff, because they know they take abuse. And there's so much adjustability on this you wouldn't believe, because like with a controller you just move the fader, that's all you have. But with this you can do like crazy adjustments to how tight it is, how heavy it feels, stuff like that. Yes, Day and Night was asking about, do the expensive mixers have the throttle box? I don't know. I'm guessing, I don't know if it's the hardware that's actually in the Serato SL box, if it's the actual thing or just their version of it, but that's basically what it does.
It's probably just the technology built into there somehow.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
built
still
in. It's plug and play. So whoever was asking,
that's a good example right there. Like we talked about compatibility and stuff like that, to where why it's more expensive, because they're designing it that it's as soon as you plug it in, it's going to work, no questions. And
you can even switch DJs. You could plug another person's laptop on one's playing, and then switch over to another DJ, and it'd be seamless without any pause in that transition. So
yeah. That's the two USB plugs is I think is crazy, because I have the two on the 7000, and to be able to have two DJs, I did it one of the first nights I had it out. My friend Ryan come out, and I'm running virtual on a Windows, and he's running Serato on a Mac, and 2 cords, and we're just literally switching back the whole night and DJing each off our own computer, our own songs, and just a press of a button, switch back and forth. He controls one side, I control the other, or I control both, or he controls both, and it's seamless, pretty much. And that's the way with these are going on, that most of the guys who use these are doing them in clubs, that to where you're doing maybe an opening set, or it would be me doing the opening set and you doing the main set, where we do have to switch out, but yet keep that dance floor. We can't skip a beat on that dance floor.
Right.
So that's kind of the purpose of that. And again, that much in there, it really does a lot. And like, here's another good example. I have a lot of friends who do the skins on the different things, and I don't put the skins on my controller, because I usually get a new controller about every 2 years, give or take. You'll keep this. I mean, you're 62 or 72. How many years did you have those?
I had it for a while. Yeah.
So it's not going to be like 2 years and out. You're not putting 1600 in 2 years and out. You're going to get another one. No. Unless something majorly changes, you'll keep this more than 5 years easy.
Yeah.
So think of it that way also, as an investment, to where he's putting into this, to where like you or I would go every couple of years, something would change. He's still going to have these and this for a longer period of time, and its functionality isn't going to wane over time.
No. Is our heads cut off on here?
No, that's the scroll point where I scroll down there.
Okay.
There we go.
Like,
we're seeing the video in the background. He's like, wait, did we cut that off there? No, it's just here. All right, so we still have a couple more minutes.
Any more questions there?
So feel free to throw the questions.
I love Denon, huh?
Yeah, Denon.
I like Denon too.
Yeah. They just bought the sound switch lighting thing, and I thought that was kind of unusual that they bought that.
Denon did.
Denon DJ bought sound switch.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So, and like I said, it's funny how they're all underneath different roofs and different things like that.
Like In Music bought Rain,
In
right?
Music owns Rain. They own Newmark. They own that. One of the weird things is that Gibson is going bankrupt, and they own Stanton. So keep in mind that's something in there. So as all these change and build,
Gibson is going bankrupt.
Yeah. So
like,
that's part of the reasons why, if you see the talk about Guitar Centers closing, they're one of the biggest owner. Yeah, because they may be losing out. So my only problem with the Denon 1600 is Denon no longer supports this work while it still works on Windows, doesn't work on Mac. That's another thing. Let's hit that real quick, because before the night's over, I want to let you do a little live demo and have a little fun for the last couple of minutes.
Sure.
But compatibility with Mac, because I know that there has been a thing for years with certain things working with certain Mac OS levels. Whatever level is that. What has been your experience with the upgrading of the operating system compared to drivers and different things like that?
This is like an area that probably I'm not like most DJs. I don't upgrade. Like I still have a 2011 MacBook Pro with Serato Scratch Live on it, you know, which is not even supported anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and my main laptop that I DJ my weddings with, I'm still running, I think it's called El Capitan or El Capitan,
right. Yeah.
which is a much older operating system, and I think than High Sierra, what's out now.
I say it's a tough name between the names and numbers. I get lost.
Yeah, well, it's 10.6 point something, and I don't remember what the numbers are.
Right.
But either way, I'm kind of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And until I start experiencing glitches with my current operating system and the combination of hardware, I'm not changing it. I don't change it, because the worst feeling is to get an audio drop, to get a crash during a live performance, you know. So I don't care about having the latest and greatest. Stability is key for me.
Because I've seen guys that do the upgrade and then go out to DJ that night and are screwed.
Right.
You know, it's like, what were you thinking?
You don't do that.
You know, it's, I don't know.
What I do, like, for instance, if I upgrade something, I will sit in this garage and I will DJ for 20 hours straight just to make sure that it doesn't crash. And I will do that for multiple days. And if it passes that test and I'm scratching heavy, doing everything I can to try to make it mess up.
I even do that with controllers. Like when I do, whether it be a firmware update or anytime even Virtual does just a regular update, and they may be stupid little bug switches. I don't do that until Monday or Tuesday, when I'm able to hook it up in the studio and let it run and run and run and run. And some of it I'll just let it play. Other ones I'll go over there and do really fast, hard switches and let it run, because it's not as perfect a world as we think it is. So this is your bread and butter. So you have to make sure, you know, it's like a race car. You're not going to win a race unless you know that car is running hot. And that's kind of what that is. We have a couple minutes left, and then I want to see you throw down here for a couple minutes.
You didn't tell me I was going to throw down. I didn't even prepare anything.
That's why, because you don't need to. You saw the video. And if you want to see those videos, you can go to your website and see those.
What are you doing? Some freestyle scratching?
Whatever you want. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to be jumping in. I'm going to tell you that much, because we're going to run earlier.
Hop on.
Vinyl is something that I've not spent much time in the past so many years. Every once in a while I'll jump on to be silly, and I was doing that tonight, and there's just a different feel in the way it pulls and releases. And I was having a little trouble with some like triple click basically what that was, a triple or quadruple click orbital I was doing, and it was just a different feel, to where the same way if he would jump on my Denon, he'd be like, dude, this thing's broke, you know, or something, you know. So it's, again, personal feel, what you're used to.
I did jump on a friend's Denon that has what you have, and I struggled with it.
Yeah, because it's just different. It's not that it's wrong, it's just different. So he's going to show you what a person who has spent years perfecting his craft can do out of the blue. And I'm just going to throw
I like how you just throw this on me. Like, I have nothing prepped. We'll just put a beat on, I guess. I want
to make sure we're getting everything here on the feed. So you guys are hearing that. I may need to pull that down a little bit. That's probably really loud. There we go. So we're probably going to get pulled from YouTube because of the songs. Oh, maybe not. But just give us some. Just throw anything in there. Throw it down. All right, hold that other side there for a second. You learned a new scratch this year. Show them what that is real quick.
Let's see if I can do it.
If you can do it, because you haven't practiced. I know you haven't practiced in a while, but show them this. So you've got about 12 things going on there at once, and that's just one scratch out of many.
One scratch.
One scratch.
Yeah, just one scratch.
But next thing I want you to show them is just show them basic beat juggling, because we saw in the video that all the skills and stuff you can do beat juggling, but I want you to see it done as we're presenting it here to show that the extra room he has by using these as opposed to a turntable, how much easier it is. And some people could say harder because you have more room to move, you know, you have to move more. How that this can be something that if you're doing beat juggling, that it can be beneficial to have this much space, both in the record size, you know, to move, and the cross back and forth. So give me just basic beat juggling, and we're just about out. For those who know, he just sped it up from 33 to 45.
Oh, you know what? It's set up from the wedding. There we go.
This is why I come here to do this show, because this is a man who's put his life into this. Thanks, and man. It's a passion, and it's sometimes a pain and sometimes a consuming fire.
It is.
So
it is.
I wanted him to come and I wanted to come here and present this at the Cadillac compound, as I like to call this, and so that you know that the information that you're getting is from someone, not just, you know, I know a lot of people out there say that I have information, but when it comes to this is a man who really knows more than I can explain to you.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
We're just about out of time.
Good to be here.
I want to, while I'm checking the last little things here, and the echo out, that's awesome. If they want to find out stuff about you before we end here, where can they go? If they wanted to, let's say they wanted to meet Jonathan, who does weddings, how would they find him?
Jonathan does weddings would be at www.finestevents.com. Or you can go on our Facebook page, again, Finest Events by Jonathan Mihellis, and that's JONATHANMIHELLIS.
After we kick off, I will put it in the show notes below so you guys can check the video afterwards, or if you're watching this later on, you can. And if they want to see Cadillac, how can they find out? Can they just search
DJ Cadillac website? He's a myth.
He's a myth. He shows up at
random battles,
DJ battles
and just tries to do his thing. But
you think you're going to be doing DMC later again?
I may.
Okay. That's a tough one, because the amount of time you put into a 6-minute routine.
Okay. I don't put. I give it a month normally and go to a DMC.
But still, that's a lot more than an average guy would put into anything.
A lot of those guys.
There's guys that don't even. There's guys that don't even. They download songs and don't even preview them, and you're talking about a month prep on a 6-minute.
6 minutes.
6 minutes.
Yeah.
So if they want to find out about that, can they find any videos on your website?
There's some online videos on YouTube. Just like type in DJ Cadillac or DJ Cadillac scratching, and there's just various videos. I know that video.
That whole video is on
Facebook.
On your Facebook. If you scroll down, is it there?
You know what? It's going to be on my Facebook, but where, I don't know. I've been posting a lot of pool videos about my son, so you're probably not gonna, you'd have to really scroll down, but it's there.
So I'll definitely put those in the show notes. I want to thank you guys for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed our little trip. If you want to see more stuff like this when I get out, because I want to try to get Shaney to do a whole show on CDJs, because there are people who've never used a CDJ ever.
I love them.
And I want to do a show and talk about all the different CDJs and the levels of where you actually put a CD in, and other ones where you can put a thumb drive in, and talk about that. So if you want to see those, let me know. Again, this whole show is about mixing, and it's about learning to be a mix DJ. And if you are interested in that, I do hold classes online, and if you can just contact me, private message through Facebook or email or whatever you prefer, and I can give you the information on the classes, and you can take them individually or as a group, and you can get from the very basics, like we did tonight, like this is an XLR chord, this is an RCA chord that I cover in DJ 101, right up to 4-channel mixing, basic scratches, blends, and all kinds of stuff like that you would have on the top end. So you guys can learn to be this guy with what, about 5 hours of practice, maybe? No.
Not even, man. Not even.
One of my quotes in my classes, I always say, I could show you 100 times, but you have to practice 1,000 times to get it.
It's true, man.
So it's possible. So if you want to do it, it's there. Cadillac, thank you, bro.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure.
I've enjoyed this. So guys, next week we got back to the studio probably. I'm thinking unless something crazy happens. But again, thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you guys had a good night and enjoyed it. God bless.